you very much indeed. It's time now for Media Watch. James Creedon joins us here in the studio. We're talking Nicolas Sarkozy, that man who, try as he might, he's never out of the news, is he? Let's face it. Former French president, of course, and the man at the centre of the scandal dubbed Sarko Leaks or Sarko Gate. His political comeback, should that happen, perhaps a little bit affected by this.
That's right, Mark, and that is the analysis in The Economist's Charlemagne blog, which looks at French politics, amongst other things. An article online today saying what a lot of the French media have been saying, essentially, that two scandals affecting Nicolas Sarkozy last week. First of all, his advisor with far-right leanings, Patrick Buisson, who had been recording, without Sarkozy's knowledge, maybe hundreds of hours of personal meetings when they were in, when he was in the Élysée Palace. The second scandal, it emerged that investigative judges had also bugged Mr. Sarkozy for nearly a year. All of this in 1 week. Both of those negative pieces of information coming out for Mr. Sarkozy. Now, could this affect Mr. Sarkozy's attempts to come back to become, the champion of the 2017 for the political right? A lot of people seem to think so, in particular in his own camp. Brice Hortefeux was quoted, that's a former minister, as saying, the more Sarkozy embodies hope, the more he becomes a target for these, investigations, in particular those investigations in the courts about suspected corruption, etc. Now, while some are saying that he's become the target of these negative stories coming out in the press at a time when he's hoping to up his profile as the great hope for 2017 for the UMP party, others are saying actually this kind of serves his interests. He's back at the centre of attention. These scandals for the moment, the Sarko Leaks scandal, where his advisor released or recorded all those tapes that found their way into the media. Nothing earth-shatteringly controversial in those tapes. So what this serves to do is to place him at the centre of the media spotlight, and also to cast him as the victim. And indeed, you have one blogger, Lyon-based journalist, who is even wondering, could these leaks have been organised by Mr. Sarkozy himself? Highly unlikely, it would have to be said, but it shows the extent to which some people view this as something that could actually be positive for Nicolas Sarkozy. So there you go, the analysis in the French media, a little bit split down the middle, a degree of,
you mentioned Patrick
Buisson.
You mentioned Patrick Buisson, the far-right advisor that Sarkozy had, who recorded these secret conversations or personal conversations. He's now saying it was all by accident. Do we believe that?
This is, I think, the funniest detail in this story in the last 24 hours, Mark.
Essentially, doesn't sound very plausible, does it?
It doesn't at all. His lawyer spoke to the Paris court investigating this today because Mr. Sarkozy and Carla Bruni Sarkozy have filed an injunction for those recordings to be taken off the websites on which they were broadcast or published. In any case, initially when these recordings became known to the courts and to the public, his lawyer, Patrick Buisson's lawyer, said, never happened. This is completely untrue. These recordings never took place. His second line of defence when that failed was, okay, there were some recordings that took place via dictaphone, but these were for archiving purposes. Mr. Buisson, as an advisor, wasn't allowed to take notes, so he used his dictaphone in order to plan, subsequent meetings, etc. Now, another line of defence, it appears the dictaphone turned itself on, Mark. It was voice activated and inside in his pocket, and when Mr. Sarkozy started talking, it magically turned itself on, which of course leads one to suspect, did the tapes also jump out of the dictaphone into his filing cabinet and maybe run over the road to the offices of Atlantico and Mediapart for publishing? It all seems a little bit, the story has grown legs, you could say. But, I'm sure that technology does exist, voice-activated dictaphones.
I'm sure it does, but why would it turn itself on at that particular point and not at any other part of his day and record all manner of banal conversations?
And why did it not also delete itself
It doesn't seem plausible.
You know,
It doesn't seem plausible.
It doesn't seem very
Let's move to Switzerland next, James. Students may now be excluded from the European exchange programme, which is called Erasmus. Erasmus is what?
Erasmus is where students across the EU are given the opportunity for 1 year to do studies in another European country for pretty much no fees at all. It's a wonderful opportunity for a lot of students. But on the 9th of February, Switzerland, as you'll remember, Mark, adopted a text against mass immigration. It means that Europeans living in Switzerland will now have to go through quota checks and might have to actually leave Switzerland. So the EU has answered, but by removing Switzerland from the Erasmus programme. And you can see here on the Courrier International, Erasmus, he was, I think, a 15th century Dutch philosopher, humanist, being packed off with his bags, sent off by the Swiss border control. So there you go, Mark.
Very sad. James, we need to leave it
All
there.
right.
I'm terribly sorry, James Creedon's always got something else to say, but we are sadly out of time.
All right,
Good to see
Mark.
you, sir. That
See
was
you
Media
tomorrow.
Watch with James Creedon. Thank you very much indeed. Time for us to go. More news to come, of course, as well as African news. Stay with us.